So today, we're diving into a fantastic real-world case study. The question is, how do you take a beloved family business, one that's been around for generations, and get it ready for the next 30 years? It's a huge challenge, and we're going to break down a really practical blueprint for how to do it.
Okay, so let's meet Flor del Trigal. It's a family bakery, a total community staple for over 3 decades. This place is a success story, built on tradition, hard work, and those family recipes that everyone loves. It's the kind of spot that feels like it's just always been there.
And right here, this is where the story gets interesting. The son, Cesar, he's in the business now, and he sees the problem. The very traditions that made the bakery a hit are actually starting to hold it back. But his dad and his uncle, the guys who built it from scratch, they're not big on change. So how do you innovate when the founders are set in their ways?
So here's our game plan. We're going to follow the exact roadmap Cesar built for a university thesis project, which turned into a real plan for the bakery. We'll look at the situation, pick the right framework, really diagnose the problems, design a solution, make sure the money makes sense, and see how this whole thing goes from just a paper to a real-world transformation.
First things first, let's get a handle on the situation. And it's super important to remember, this is not a story about a failing business. Not at all. It's about a successful one that's hitting a wall, where the old ways of doing things are starting to cause some serious friction.
At its core, Flor del Trigal is a tiny operation, what you'd call a micro-enterprise. There's a small team of just 7 people, a mix of family and employees. And for 30 years, they've made it work on gut feelings and tradition. But now, you can see the operational cracks starting to show, and that's a real risk for their future.
All right, before you can fix anything, you gotta have the right tools, right? For Cesar, the very first big decision was picking the right academic framework. And this choice, believe it or not, was gonna shape the entire game plan for fixing the bakery's problems.
And this right here is a really, really important distinction. You see, an entrepreneurship model is all about starting something totally new, from zero. But Flor del Trigal isn't new. It's been around forever. And that's exactly why they went with a business model approach. It's designed specifically for restructuring and fine-tuning what you've already got. Much less risky, way more potential for growth. Making this one choice is absolutely crucial. It completely shifts the thinking from, let's start over, to, let's make this business, our business, better. Getting this right from the get-go sets the stage for every practical step that comes next.
Okay, now it's time to play detective. To really get to the bottom of what's going on, Cesar used this awesome visual tool called the problem tree. It's such a brilliant way to map out not just the problems you can see, but the hidden causes behind them.
So, at the very center of it all, the trunk of our tree, is one single core issue: operational inefficiency. This is the big problem that everyone feels every day, even if they can't quite put their finger on why it's happening.
But what's actually causing all that inefficiency? Well, for that, we got to dig down to the roots of the tree. And what do we find? There are no real financial controls. Nobody has a clearly defined job. There are no official company rules. And the way they bake things, yeah, it's traditional, but it's also outdated and different every time. These are the deep, hidden issues.
And when you have roots like that, this is what you get. These are the branches, the stuff you can see. You have no idea if you're actually making money on certain products. Family members are arguing over what to do next. The staff is getting demoralized. They're wasting ingredients and energy. And slowly, the bakery starts to lose its edge.
So, we've mapped out the problem, we see the roots and the branches. Now what? How do we actually fix it? Well, the project played out a super clear 3-part blueprint that attacks the roots of that problem tree head-on.
And the solution is so practical, you gotta love it. First, to fix the whole who does what problem, they need an official organizational chart. Simple. Second, to fix the inconsistent baking, they need to actually write down the official recipes and processes. And finally, to figure out where they stand, they need to do a proper SWOT analysis of their market.
And here's a little piece of genius. They realized they didn't have to boil the ocean and change everything at once. Just by standardizing their 7 best-selling products, their star recipes, they could finally accurately calculate how much it costs to make them. For the first time in 30 years, they could move from just guessing on prices to actually knowing their numbers. That's a game changer.
Okay, let's talk about the money. Because convincing a traditional business owner to spend money on something new, it almost always comes down to one thing. You have to prove it's going to be profitable. You need to make a rock-solid financial case.
This was basically their golden rule. It's not enough to just say, hey, we need a new machine. No way. You have to prove with cold, hard numbers how that new machine is going to make more bread, waste less dough, and eventually pay for itself. It's all about turning an expense into an investment.
So to make this real, they took a sample price for a new industrial bread maker, let's say around $8,000. Now, this wasn't a final quote. It was just a number to build a model around. It forced them to answer the tough question: how many more loaves of bread do we need to sell, and at what profit, to make this $8,000 investment worth it?
And that brings us to our final, and honestly most important point here. This whole thing wasn't just about getting a good grade on a school project. It was about creating a real, actionable roadmap for a real family business that they loved.
You know, what this whole case study really proves is that structure and tradition don't have to be enemies. A smart, well-designed business plan, like the one Cesar put together, can actually honor the 30-year legacy of a business while building a strong bridge to make sure it's around for 30 more.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question to think about. Whether it's your own family business, a side hustle, or just a project at work, what's the one small, structured change you could make that might just unlock its entire future? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.